That's my Bahama land, yeah. Friends in every place, a smile on every face. Children at play, time with family today. Someone fill my plate, homemade bread, I can't wait. I can't get enough, I will always stay in touch with my Bahama land, yeah.
Rare Voice introduces Bahamaland, an unlimited nationwide calling plan for only $5 a month. So call home today and connect again with Bahamaland. Home never felt so close.
My Bahama land, yeah.
The Prime Minister defends government's transparency regarding the Bahamas Electricity Corporation deal. Concern over reported bank layoffs, how value-added tax shapes up against other proposed tax structures. More details on the Albany expansion deal and how surgery saved an 8-year-old's life. We have those stories and more coming up tonight. Good evening, Bahamas. I'm Christina McNeil, and your MB12 starts right now. Thanks again for joining us here at Cable 12. The war of words between Prime Minister Perry Christie and Democratic National Alliance leader Granville McCartney escalated today as Christie called the DNA an immature party that is latching onto national issues just to get attention. Christie lashed out at the DNA leader for the second time in recent days after McCartney accused the Christie administration of being very quiet on the planned restructuring of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation. Vonique Toot reports.
Prime Minister Perry Christie took exception to claims made by the DNA that his government has not been transparent enough about the process leading up to the impending BEC deal. However, Christie told reporters today he's hesitant about responding to the DNA, which he called an immature party that's simply looking for attention.
I want to be very careful about responding to Granville McCartney and his party. They're looking for a platform, and therefore a significant amount of their utterances are intended to secure a platform and attention.
DNA leader Granville McCartney demanded that the government reveal more details on the planned restructuring of the Bahamas Electricity Corporation and the companies involved. He said he hopes it is not reminiscent of the BTC deal the former Christie administration considered signing with Blue Water Ventures Limited. Well, Christie said today, as soon as it is advisable, the Bahamian people will be fully informed of what's happening with BEC.
But we have always said to KPMG, keep people informed of what you're doing so that the people who look for issues, in this case the DNA, would not demonstrate the kind of impatience that I think immature political parties do. In any event, to answer his position, we intend and have intended at all times to be transparent.
In an effort to overhaul the energy sector, government is splitting BEC into a transmission, distribution, and customer billing entity, as well as a semi-privatized generation company. It is hoped the move would reduce the cost of electricity. Christie says just as his government made an announcement about the new deal struck with BTC, officials will do the same for BEC.
We have just undergone transactions with BTC that became public. And we have put into the Parliament a select committee request for an examination of that entire deal. It therefore should follow to Granville McCartney and the people of the Bahamas that if we've taken that position with respect to BTC, we are not going to make mistakes with respect to BEC.
Christie spoke with reporters on the sidelines of the Small Island Developing States Conference, which began this morning. Government officials have scheduled meetings with the 5 remaining bidders, none of which are Bahamian companies. However, Deputy Prime Minister Philip Davis said last week it is possible one entity could be chosen to take over BEC's management and power generation. Reporting for NB12, I'm Vonique Tude.
Well, as reports of additional layoffs in the banking sector continue to swirl, Prime Minister Perry Christie admitted today that he's concerned about banking, period, and noted that government must create an environment that will enable those workers to find new jobs. His comments come days after CIBC First Caribbean's Managing Director Marie Rodland Allen confirmed plans to eliminate 66 jobs in the Bahamas and a further 74 through voluntary redundancies. The Bahamas Financial Services Union has predicted more job cuts as part of a regional cost-cutting exercise. Christie says he has asked bank officials to keep government and union officials informed of new developments,
so that we can all be on the same page to ensure that we minimize the impact, so to speak, of those people who will lose their jobs. I was happy to learn that a significant number of people were volunteering and getting the packages, but there will be some people who do not volunteer, who lose their jobs, and it is for us to create an environment that will enable them to get a job.
The Prime Minister also reaffirmed the government's support for the Bank of the Bahamas. The Free National Movement recently raised a new round of questions regarding the health of the bank, which said it recorded its first loss last year of $3.5 million. He says the government will do whatever is necessary to protect and promote the bank.
It was not just the Bank of the Bahamas that suffered a small loss, but there was other banks that suffered losses, and that we must be careful with our banking industry, and that the Bahamas is as 100+% behind the Bank of the Bahamas, and will not hesitate to do everything that is necessary.
And the government has chosen value-added tax as the preferred new instrument for revenue collection going forward. But no one has fully explained why, at least not until today. During day one of the mid-year budget debate in the House of Assembly, State Minister for Finance Michael Halkitis aimed to show why VAT won over other tax models. Nikita Vo has the details in this report.
Starting off the debate this morning, Halkitis used the opportunity to once again defend VAT as the best model for the country. And for the first time since VAT was proposed, he compared that tax with the other alternatives that the government considered.
So what the academics and the people who study these things say, the best thing is property taxes, followed by VAT, followed by income taxes, and personal income taxes, followed by corporate income taxes, Mr. Speaker. One of the benefits, Mr. Speaker, of the VAT is that it acts to promote savings and investment. As a tax on consumption rather than on incomes, it promotes work, effort, and entrepreneurship rather than acting as a disincentive, as does income tax.
The Coalition for Responsible Taxation recently said that based on its initial research using NIB data, creating a payroll tax system could give the government an estimated $190 million a year. Members also say a payroll tax is easier to implement and collect than VAT. Halkitis today responded to those who tout payroll tax as a possible replacement, stating that such taxes deter employment and can encourage the laying off of employees.
They are in effect a tax on jobs. And if they cannot be passed on to the employees in the form of lower wages, they inevitably lead to higher prices or lower profit margins, Mr. Speaker. So what has been said is, okay, you already have national insurance in place, just let them collect another 5% or so. And, you'll go with that instead of worrying about this consumption tax.
Halkitis said that many Bahamians also operate in an informal economy, meaning that they are paid in cash and are therefore difficult to tax and regulate. He added that there is also a question of the ability of a new payroll tax to generate the levels of revenue that are necessary for the government to achieve its revenue targets.
On the basis of experience with national insurance, it is estimated that a new payroll tax at, say, 5% would only generate something like 1/2 of the revenues that we expect from the VAT. A higher payroll tax would therefore likely be required. That in turn would be, we believe, disastrous in terms of achieving our goal of generating new employment. So do we really want to tax people's incomes at the beginning?
Now, some business owners have also suggested income tax as an alternative to VAT. However, Halkidis said that rate would have to be significantly higher than 15%.
During the year, every employer would be required to withhold income taxes from wages and salaries every month and remit these to the government. So every month, the employer will take out the income tax and send it to the government. On the basis of business license data, that would suggest monthly filings by about 15,000 businesses, as opposed to 4,000 under the VAT.
The introduction of a personal income tax in the country would require all Bahamians, whether employed in the formal economy or self-employed, to report annually all sources of income to the government. Halkidis said that around the world, a minimum threshold is provided under which no income tax would be payable. That means, for example, people who make less than $75,000 a year would be exempt from the tax. However, Halkidis said that given the government's revenue needs, that threshold would have to be set very low.
The rate of personal income tax would therefore need to be set at a sufficiently high level to secure revenue needs. In many countries, it is not unusual to see personal income taxes in the area of 30% or higher. And so we ask the question, Mr. Speaker, would the working Bahamian prefer to see some 30% of their earned income deducted from his or her monthly paycheck? Or would it be better to keep all income earned and be at full liberty to decide which products and services to purchase, in the knowledge that certain of those purchases will be subject to a VAT while others would be exempt? And we should recall that under VAT, savings would not be taxed.
The coalition has put forth several tax models to the Christie administration that members say could net the government more than $600 million a year. Prime Minister Perry Christie said the government is willing to consider the findings of that research. But despite much resistance to the tax, Halkidis assured that many studies indicate that the country would be better off if the government were to make value-added tax the cornerstone of its tax reform strategy. Reporting for NB12, I'm Nakia DeVoe.
A new heads of agreement signed for the expansion of the Albany development in the hopes of creating the Monaco of the Caribbean. Prime Minister Perry Christie and Albany's managing partner, Christopher Anand, were on hand for the signing late yesterday evening, noting that the transformation is very feasible given Albany's track record during the global recession.
That's subject to obtaining the appropriate approvals from the relevant government agencies. The developer will expand the scope of the project, so Albany will be considered more than a resort and/or place to own a home. It aims to become the Monaco of the Caribbean.
When I shared the vision with the Prime Minister, it sounded incredibly bold, but just to tell you, Monaco is 400 acres. Albany is 600 acres. Believe it or not, Albany is bigger than Monaco today. Okay? Which shocks a lot of people. Now, there's some bad things about Monaco, so we don't want to create those, but there's some good things. And our job within this Bahamas, I like to think of the country as an ecosystem. We all have a role to play, and our role is at the very, very high end of the tourism market and at the residential market.
The $140 million expansion will build upon the development's 600 residential and resort units, 18-hole Ernie Els designed championship golf course, world-class marina, equestrian center, spa, and other amenities. Among other things, the expansion will include the creation of a medical center and hospital with helipad, a financial center, and a sports academy, which will bring hundreds of direct and indirect jobs for Bahamians upon completion by 2016.
An additional 1,000 direct jobs will be created during the construction phase, and at least an additional 300 direct permanent jobs upon completion of the expansion over the next 3 years. Several hundred more indirect jobs, scores of jobs for building contractors, and numerous opportunities for entrepreneurs and suppliers will derive from the expansion's economic impact.
Christie and Anand say the new agreement will allow both the government and developer to benefit.
Intend to create a strategic partnership between the medical center and leading international hospitals and healthcare providers, including international hospitals and healthcare providers from Orlando, Florida, to provide additional specialized care and/or emergency care that cannot be satisfied within the Bahamas.
Our hope is that as the professional athletes that are already a part of Albany, that will continue to grow. But our hope is as the academy is developed, that pro sports teams will actually come here to the Bahamas and get ready for preseason, etc. And while they're here, they can then do sporting events, for example, at the National Stadium.
Christie says the agreement will also restore certain obligations that he says were deleted from the initial heads of agreement by the Ingram administration. Those include the contribution of $1 million to urban renewal, sponsorship of a Division A Junkanoo group, helping the government find a qualified buyer for the proposed South Ocean project, granting government an easement to the entrance of the Albany Marina, and enhancement of the nearby Adelaide Village community. The $1.3 billion Albany project has spent more than $20 million on marketing the development and the Bahamas between 2005 and 2013.